In 1994, a financial advisor named Bill Bengen became famous for creating the 4% rule. Today, this is the #1 technique when it comes to the financial independence or also the FIRE movement. And this concept is pretty simple. Each year, we can withdraw 4% of your stock portfolio to live a pleasant and meaningful life and basically never run out of money again. Hi, Jarod here, and today let's talk about finance and we'll see why this rule does not work anymore, its hidden drawbacks, and also one much better alternative. And by the way, the creator of this rule, who recently retired, has just declared that he no longer applies it to himself. Alright, so what is the 4% rule? Well, let me introduce you to the S&P 500. It is an index fund, so a basket of the 500 biggest US companies. So when you buy a share on your phone, for instance, you buy 2% of Apple, then 2% of Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson, Nvidia, and so on. And historically, for the past 80 years, it always returned around 10% a year. Sometimes 40% a year, sometimes maybe minus 20% a year. But in the long term, the average is around 10%, which is very good for owning the biggest US companies. And let's say you invest $500 each month in the S&P 500. You download your favorite broker on your phone. It can be Robinhood if you live in the US, eToro or Charles Schwab in Europe, for instance, and in the UK. You then type S&P 500, click on buy, and you can enter your desired amount. And if you consistently invest $500 for the next 40 years, you will have in the very end $1 million, which is already astonishing. Compounding takes time, right? But it pays off in the end. And what if you decide to keep those $1 million in the stock market instead of selling everything to buy your dream car and your dream house? Well, this is when the 4% rule comes into play. And you keep your $1 million in the stock market, and each year you decide to sell only 4% of your total portfolio, so roughly 40k. And no matter what happens to the stock market and the economy, the rule is to always take 4% out and keep the other 96% invested. But first question, why 4%? Bill Bengen, the creator of this rule, said that he used two indicators when he created it back in the late 90s. And the first one is that the stock market always returns around 7% a year on average, and the second rule is that inflation should be around 3% a year on average. He simply took the stock market returns and subtracted them by inflation. So 7 minus 3, which is of course equal to 4%. And this is the amount you can theoretically safely take out each year, while still letting your portfolio grow over time. Second question, how reliable can it be? Well, the idea seems so perfect that it quickly became the #1 advice on websites, YouTube channels, and even books. But there's an irony to that story. Bill Bengen is now retired, so he can perfectly apply his own rule. Right, and guess what? In a recent Wall Street interview, Bill said that the 4% rule was not easy to follow and that it was hard to follow during an economic downturn, so he stopped using his own rules. Which brings us to the burning question of the video: what did it fail? There are two reasons to explain it, and first, it does not work at all in the short term. Comma. Here is the S&P 500 again over the past 5 years, from 2018 to 2023. From March 2020 to the end of 2021, stocks went pretty much up, right? But from 2022 to right now in 2023, stocks went significantly down. They have lost 20% of their value in a single year. And let's get back to the $1 million that we accumulated over the past 30 years. Today, they would be worth 800k only. So if we need to sell 4% of 800k, we would end up with only 32k. In this case, to keep the same level of income, you will be forced to withdraw much more, say around 8% at the bottom of a crash. And this rule forces you to sell more assets at the worst possible time because of short-term fluctuation. And this highlights something very bad: running out of money. And the second reason to explain why this rule failed is because it goes against the concept of generational wealth creation. And to understand that concept, we need to understand the difference between static wealth versus functional wealth. Let's take an agricultural land. The land itself is an asset. It holds a certain value that can fluctuate through time, but you can only earn the value when you sold the land. This is static wealth. Now you decide to plant and let grow seeds. You can harvest it, sell it, and you will make a profit. This is functional wealth. And when we look at the history of the richest families in the world, they all have one thing in common. They've all used functional wealth and static wealth together to generate even more static wealth. In this case, people buy harvesters, tractors, etc. to plant, take care of the seeds, and harvest the land. The profit made can be invested again in bigger lands, and so on. This is an infinite way to grow your own money. But the 4% rule does not do that at all. Instead, the 4% rule will make you sell a piece of farmland every year to finance your own life. That's basically it. So we've gone from wealth creation to wealth liquidation. Your children and those after them will just have to take care of themselves. Is this the life you truly want to live? Do you want to see your money disappear because of some market crashes you will encounter along the way? If you're like me, probably not. Which brings us to the solution, or in other words, the durable long-term alternative to the 4% rule. And let's talk about dividends then. The concept is pretty simple. Every year you know exactly how much you will earn, allowing you to reinvest some of it and live off the rest without any regrets. Since you don't sell anything, each year you hold a little more stock than the year before, generating even more passive income. My golden rule would be to check for how long the company has been paying dividends, and if it kept them or not. Coca-Cola is the perfect example. The company always increased its dividend payout every single year for more than 59 years now. It went through many wars, inflation, economic downturns, and even the COVID outbreak. But still, Coca-Cola has managed to always raise its dividend payouts along the way, which is a sign of a healthy and stable company. You can keep investing in the S&P 500, then reinvest the dividends, or keep them. It depends on only one person, who is yourself. You don't have to worry about whether the market is going up, down, or sideways. Anyway, no matter how you invest, always keep in mind to think in the long term, so at least 5 to 10 years. If you're not comfortable keeping a stock or an index fund for that period, then you may want to do more research about your investment. So if you want to know how to invest $100 right now, the video is right here. And if you have any questions related to investing, then the video is right here. Thanks so much for watching, feel free to leave a comment down below, subscribe if you want to see more, and as always, I will see you in the next one.